What's the best loophole on an exam that you've ever witnessed? My theoretical physics instructor was absolutely unhinged. Professor Langley had a doctorate from Caltech and carried herself like she despised every single person who dared enroll in her particle dynamics course. Her tests were infamous. No one had cracked more than a 36% in the past 6 years. People literally switched majors to escape her. Our final counted for 65% of the entire grade. And the last question, worth 50 points by itself. It said, using the Dirac equation, determine the probability distribution function of a particle in a 39-dimensional hypercube, then derive the allowed energy levels for each eigenstate. The problem stretched across 2 full pages. It had variables that looked completely made up, symbols I'd never seen in any textbook, math that looked like it came from an alien spaceship. People were losing it. One guy just stared at the page for 10 minutes, then got up and left without saying a word. A girl near me was gripping her calculator like a lifeline, mumbling equations to herself like prayers. I sat frozen. My whole brain just stopped. I'd never seen anything like this. The panic in the room was electric. You could feel everyone breaking down around you. Desks shook from frantic scribbling. Erasers were snapping. Pens running dry. One guy was writing formulas on his forearm. Then it hit me. I remembered something Langley had said on the first day of class. Physics isn't about knowing every answer. It's about knowing when the answer can't exist. So I looked at the question again, slowly this time. And that's when I realized something wasn't right. The setup described a system that would break the exclusion principle. The number of dimensions made it mathematically unstable. The boundary conditions didn't even line up with the laws of classical or quantum mechanics. There was one line in the middle of it all that said, assume normal terrestrial lab conditions. That's what sealed it, because the scenario required a vacuum approaching absolute zero and simultaneously the core pressure of a neutron star. It wanted infinite gravitational fields and room temperature at the same time. None of it made sense. The thermodynamic variables clashed. The quantum constraints were self-defeating. So I wrote, this system violates fundamental principles of quantum theory and cannot exist in standard Earth-based lab conditions. The environmental requirements are mutually exclusive and would result in system collapse. Under current laws of physics, the problem is unsolvable because the scenario itself is physically impossible. I handed it in at the 90-minute mark. Everyone else still looked like they were fighting for their lives. Someone behind me snorted when I turned mine in. She gave up already, they whispered. 4 days later, Langley walked in with a look that could have stopped time. She stood at the front of the lecture hall and said, 49 of you spent 3 hours trying to solve a problem that breaks the laws of physics. She held up a paper and slapped it down on her desk. One of you realized the actual solution was realizing there was no solution. That's what makes a real physicist. She looked me dead in the eyes. In research, you can waste decades chasing equations that collapse under their own contradictions. Learn to spot them early. I scored 100%. The class average was 7%. 7.